I appreciate it. Thanks, Billy. Appreciate it very much. Great to have this kind of turnout here. You should have all gotten a card to ask questions. And what I'd like you to do, this is a dialogue. This is not me just giving you a speech. I want to get your questions. I want to answer as many questions as we possibly can tonight in the next about hour period of time. So if you would, get your card, write your question on it, and then hold your card up, and my staff will come by and pick those up, and we'll try to get through as many questions as we possibly can. So go ahead and put those together, any question that you might have. Just to tell you a little bit what's going on, just before we left Washington to come home for the August work period, district work period, I introduced two bills recently. One is H.R. 2900, which is my Patient Option Act. What it will do, the Patient Option Act, is it will totally repeal Obamacare. And it will put in place policy that is centered on you. It's a patient-centered, market-based health care plan that's going to make your insurance a lot cheaper. In fact, it makes all health care cheaper for everyone. And it's going to provide coverage for all Americans. It will save Medicare from going broke. Obamacare already is harming our economy. It's already killing job production in this country. It's something that we need to get rid of and replace it with something that makes sense economically. What Obamacare will do, if it stays in place, as I mentioned, it's already hurting job production. And a good example is, I was talking to a businessman who recently told me in our district that he has a number of fast food restaurants. He told me, he said, Paul, I have over 200 employees in my employment. I'm providing free health care coverage for all of them. But I can't afford it under Obamacare because the premiums are going so high because of the mandates of Obamacare that I'm considering very seriously taking those over 200 employees and putting them all part-time or getting rid of all of them and hiring just part-time employees to go down to 29 hours a week employment, which is what Obamacare is forcing him to do. He doesn't want to do that. I talked to another employee just this weekend who said that he's got a small business. I think 8 or 9 employees. I think he has 8. And he told me he's providing health care coverage, again, for all his employees, free. They don't pay anything for it. And he told me he's going to, that his insurance premiums, he just got his bill from the insurance agent. And because of Obamacare, his premium went up 50% over last year because of those mandates of Obamacare. And in fact, just a couple of weeks ago, our state insurance commissioner asked the federal government to have a little break, just for 1 month. He requested a 1-month break from Obamacare because he said a lot of people in this state are going to see their insurance premiums go up by 198% from what it is today. It's hurting our economy. It's already today. It's already killing jobs. It's also going to break budgets, from family budgets all the way up to the federal budget. Obamacare is going to be one of the greatest spending functions of the federal government if it stays in place. And it's going to destroy your privacy and your liberty. The reason I say that is because the federal government is going to get all your health records. You're going to have government bureaucrats being able to, in all probability, be able to look at your health records. We see what's going on with these scandals with NSA getting your phone records and email records. Do you think they don't want to get your health records also? All of these things are a reflection of a government that's out of control. The government's out of control. It's spending too much money. It's spending too much. It's taxing too much. It's regulating too much. It's borrowing too much. And it's sticking its ugly nose in our business too much. And it must stop. Both parties are guilty. Since y'all elected me to Congress 6 years ago, I've spent the last 6 years trying to stop this out of control spending and out of control government. In fact, just in the last Congress, I introduced more than $155 billion worth of targeted spending cuts. Just in this Congress, we've seen just very few of our appropriations bills. Already in this Congress, I've proposed almost $6 billion worth of cuts in this one. And let me give you some idea of the kind of cuts that I proposed. Right now today, we're spending almost $70 billion. $70 billion on the U.S. Department of Education. The average salary of those fat cat bureaucrats in the U.S. Department who never taught a child to read is over $101,000 a year. What I say, let's close down the Department of Education totally. All right. Let's leave those dollars here in Georgia. Let's pay our teachers more. And let's have a world-class education system here in Georgia. Let's get the government shackles off the teachers. Any teachers in the crowd? Any teachers? No? Normally we have a number. The teachers are shackled by a program that George Bush gave us called No Child Left Behind. Now the Department of Education is pushing a program that's called Common Core. Now, I call No Child Left Behind, No Teacher Left Unshackled. Let's get the shackles off teachers. Let's let parents and teachers here in Oglethorpe County determine what kind of education kids here in Oglethorpe County have. And let's pay our teachers more. And make them accountable, absolutely. We can do that here locally. Get rid of CRCT and all those types of things the Department of Education has put upon us. Now, while we're closing things, y'all, let's close down the EPA also. Oh, wow. Yeah. We've got to be good stewards of our environment. There's no question about it. In fact, I'm a conservationist. It's conservation issues that started my political activism. But we're spending billions of dollars on an EPA that is already hurting jobs and hurting our economy. And this administration is utilizing the EPA as a tool to drive up the cost of energy. And in fact, our president in a national TV address said that what he wanted to do is, I'll use his words, necessarily skyrocket the cost of energy. Now, who's that going to hurt? Poor people and senior citizens on limited income. We can be a good steward of our environment. We must. But the state can do that. The state should do that instead of spending billions of dollars on the EPA. And I can go on and on. There are many departments, many bureaus of the federal government that we should close down. What I've been doing as your congressman, ever since y'all elected me 6 years ago, is trying to find bridges to send powers back to the states or to the people, as the 10th Amendment says that they should do. And that's what I'll continue to do as long as I'm in Washington. So, I know some people, are y'all collecting these cards? Because a lot of people, just hold up the card and Jesse will come by and pick up some. And just let me tell y'all, okay. Wow, all these are about Obamacare. Seems like that's a very popular topic to add another one about Obamacare. Well, this is about something else, okay? We'll put that in here. Let me look at all these. Did all y'all ask a question about Obamacare? Let's see. David Smith. Where are you, David? Go ahead, David. Thanks for your question. When is the Republican Party going to grow a backbone and stand up to this administration? Vote to defund Obamacare. If staffers in D.C. can't afford the new taxes and monies associated with Obamacare, then how can the poor people of our area afford it too? Let me start, David, by starting with the second part of that question. I believe in the rule of law. And law should be applied equally to everybody. There should not be any privileged class in America. And somebody here in Oglethorpe County should be treated just as equal under the law as should the President of the United States or a Senator or Congressman. And I'll do everything I can to make sure that any laws passed by Congress applies to Congress just as well as it does to you. Good. And in fact, there's a bill that I'm a co-sponsor of that says that members of Congress should have Obamacare applied to them just as equally as it should be to everybody in this country. And with that, let me mention this too, that the President, y'all may have seen recently, the President said that he was going to suspend or delay the employer mandate. Well, think about it. In fact, the House passed a bill to actually put that into law because Barack Obama does not have the legal authority to do that.
Why doesn't somebody do something about it?
Well, I'll get to that in a minute. The President does not have the legal authority to do that. What I want to do is I want to exempt us all from Obamacare.
Has done illegally that nobody has stood up and said, you know what, you're doing this illegally. You are not able to do this.
Well, there are a number of us that have stood up and said that. But think about it. I want you to think about this, though. He said that he's going to exempt the employers from being subject to Obamacare for a while. The House said, okay, if you're going to do that, we may as well pass a law to do so. And we did. But the House also passed a bill that said individuals are exempt from Obamacare for now, too. The President said he's going to veto that bill if he ever gets to it. Harry Reid threw both of them in the trash can.
He's a jerk.
So, I think everybody heard this. But to think about it, just think about what he's done. He said he's going to let off big business, his supporters. But he's going to stick it to us little guys. Family businesses that are just trying to make a living, trying to make ends meet. Family businesses with just a few employees are going to be subject to it. Individuals who pay the most for health insurance today are going to be subject to it. He doesn't care about us. It's not fair. It's not fair. And he keeps on talking about fairness. What he says is that you can pay more for your health insurance. You can be subject to those taxes or fines. But we're going to let the big business guys off because they support this administration. It's not fair. We need to have laws applicable to everyone.
So how do you do that?
And I've been very vocal about that. Well, the problem is, in Hosea 4:6, God says, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. And when she says, how do we get there? The problem that I see is that most members of Congress, and actually most federal judges, all the way up to the Supreme Court, have no clue what the original intent of the Constitution is. And what I've been doing ever since, I know a lot of y'all have heard me talk about my 4 questions that I ask about legislation. But I have 4 questions that I ask about each piece of legislation. All 4 questions have to be yes for me to vote yes. The first, is it right? Does it fit the Judeo-Christian biblical principles that our nation was founded on? Second question, is it constitutional? Does it fit the original intent of our founding fathers that meant government to be very limited with enumerated powers? The third question, do we need it? Fourth, can we afford it? If all 4 yes, I vote yes. If one's no, I vote no, and I'll bless you. I'll continue to vote that way as long as you send me to Washington. But the problem is, most members of Congress, they continue to build a bigger, more intrusive government in both parties. Even conservative Republicans do. In fact, we've built this big federal criminal justice system a lot because the conservatives in Congress said we need to get tough on crime. We don't have the authority for it. We're developing a federal police state because of this out-of-control government. And it's spending too much money. And it's sticking its nose in your business too much. Most of all those things that should be dealt with by the state. We've got to send those powers back to the states or the people. And I've been very vocal about that. So, another statement. This is a statement. Right here. Ronnie, you want to make your statement?
No to Obamacare.
That's right. No to Obamacare. Okay, what is being done to defund Obamacare? Stan Shaw. Where's Stan? Hey, Stan. Oh, yeah, I know you, Stan.
Pretty much answered that.
Well, that's right. But you asked a second question. How about Benghazi and the IRS scandal? Will anything ever happen? Well, Stan, let me tell you that there is a bill that was introduced by my good friend Frank Wolf from Virginia, that I'm a co-sponsor bill, I think one of the original co-sponsors, that says we must have a select committee to look into Benghazi. We've got to have those answers. This administration continues to stonewall about Benghazi, about Fast and Furious, about IRS, about NSA, about all these scandals. In fact, folks, if there was as much stonewalling going on down at the border as there is going on in Washington, we'd have a secure border. And we must secure the borders before we do anything else. But a number of us are pushing real hard to get to the answer, because you and all American citizens deserve to know what happened in Benghazi and what was going on there. And I'll not rest until we find that out, Stan. So I've got a whole bunch of other questions here about Obamacare. Let's see, are you in favor of defunding Obamacare? Kathy, yes. In fact, that's the only way. Let me tell you this. There are a number of us in the House and the Senate. I'm working with my good friends, Ted Cruz, Rand Paul, and Mike Lee. There are about a half dozen of us in the House that work with those three guys to try to get this country back on the right track. And what you keep hearing about defunding Obamacare, that's the only way to delay it. If we, let me tell you what's going to happen in September. The government's operating right now today on a continuing resolution. What that means is that we haven't passed appropriations bills to fund the government, to fund the government operations, except for very few. And so what Congress has done, really, since I've been in Congress, now 6 years, is pass these continuing resolutions, which just says we'll continue funding it at whatever level and then tweak it a little bit, etc. Well, the current continuing resolution runs out the end of September. The new fiscal year starts the 1st of October. The House has passed, I think, 5 or 6 appropriations bills, and I'm not sure the Senate's passed any. So we don't have appropriations to continue funding the government past October 1st. So we're going to have to pass a continuing resolution. Our Speaker, John Boehner, said that he wants to do a short term so that hopefully we can get some appropriations bills passed. But what a number of us are trying to do is delay the implementation of Obamacare by taking the funds away for putting it in place. And I'll continue to fight to try to get that done, because it is a destroyer today. And we'll continue to work on that. What's that?
Can he veto whatever the...
Well, yes, he could.
I mean, we keep hearing about all these votes they keep taking. Apparently, it's just a straw vote. Nobody cares.
Well, that's right. What the Democrats keep talking about is that Republicans want to shut down the government. I don't want to shut down the government. I want to shut down Obamacare. Yeah. Okay. And I want to keep the government funded. And that's all of us. Rand Paul, Mike Lee, Ted Cruz, the House group that's working with, like I say, it's a handful of us that are working on this. We want to keep the government open. But I believe this president and Harry Reid, Nancy Pelosi want to shut the government down.
But what I don't understand.
And they want to raise taxes and what they're saying to our leadership, what they're saying to our leadership, write your question down for me and I'll get to it, okay? By the way, just so we don't have people shouting out and what have you. I know everybody is excited and wants to ask a question. I'm going to try to get every question answered tonight. But I want to keep the government running. Now, and all the group of us that are trying to stop Obamacare from being implemented want to keep the government running. If Obama wants to shut down the government just over this law that's hated by over half of the American people that want to see it repealed and replaced, then that's up to him and Harry Reid to do that. We'll see what happens. So let's, Jesse, you still getting questions?
Yes, sir.
Let's see, a question from Kenneth Gooden about, I think I answered your first question, Kenneth, about the exception of Obamacare. Why are Republicans not fighting this? Some of us are. Unfortunately, our leadership is not. Unfortunately, our leadership is not. That's the reason when we voted for Speaker of the House, I voted for Alan West.
Alan West is no longer a member of Congress.
Well, and he doesn't have, a member of Congress does not have to, or the Speaker of the House does not have to be a member of Congress. A lot of people don't realize that. So if we had enough people to vote for Alan West, he could very well have served as Speaker, even though he's not a member of Congress. So it was not just a throwaway vote. In fact, a group of us were trying to make sure that we had a good, strong Speaker of the House. Okay, and another couple of questions about, Kenneth, I think, right, Kenneth, why are we not getting rid of the IRS? I want to go to a fair tax, a national retail tax. And that's the only way we can get rid of the IRS. And there's something here about getting information about Benghazi. Let's see. We just have men asking questions here tonight. James Smith, where's James? Hey James, yeah. He makes a comment. I, like many other citizens, have lost confidence in Congress and the Senate's ability to do what's right for America, and I agree with you. And I'm just as frustrated as you are. We've got to start focusing on what's right for America, not what's right for one party or another. And when I was sworn in the U.S. Marine Corps, when I was sworn into the U.S. Congress, actually when I was sworn back in the Navy Reserve 3 years ago, I'm in the active Navy Reserve now. The reason for that is because I'm a Marine. And actually got back into the Navy Reserve because I could as a general medical officer. And I was deployed to Afghanistan last year. I wanted to be deployed. I actually had to fight hard to be deployed because I believe in America. I believe in liberty and freedom. I believe in this nation. And I believe in doing my duty for this nation. And that's what I'm focusing on. And we've got to focus on what's good for all people of this country. You see, we have enough money in this country to take care of poor people. We have enough money in this country to take care of senior citizens that are in need. We have enough money in this country to provide good quality, world-class quality health care for all Americans. We have enough money in this country to provide a world-class education for all of our students. But what we can't do is continue this idiocy of building a bigger government, to spending our money on the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. We need to spend it on those that are in need. We need to spend it to provide the kind of health care coverage for all Americans. That's what my Patient Option Act would do. We need to spend our money on taking care of those in need, whether they're senior citizens or poor people. We need to spend our money on trying to create jobs and a strong economy. And my Jobs Act would do that. But what we can't do is continue spending money on a bigger bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. In fact, during all the housing market crash in 2008, I think the only place in this country where housing prices were upheld and even continued to go up, maybe even, was Washington, D.C. Why? Because we continue to build a bigger bureaucracy. Let me give you an interesting piece of information. When the recession started, there was one federal bureaucrat, one in the whole Department of Transportation that made over $160,000 a year. One. Just 18 months later, with this administration, 18 months later, making over $160,000 a year, went from one to being 1,690. We need to pave our roads. We need to build bridges and repair our crumbling infrastructure. But we can't continue paying for federal bureaucrats at that kind of rate. That's the reason I'm fighting for constitutionally limited government. We've got to go back to those enumerated powers. There's a question about members of Congress paying. And the question about that is, my health insurance is not free. I pay for my health insurance. And I buy the same policy at the same price, from my understanding, that your postman could buy the same policy. It's the federal employees' health insurance plan. That all federal employees are eligible to join the plan. We can purchase different kind of insurance plans, and of course, the price depends on what you buy. Whether you go into an HMO or a PPO, or whether it's a select or non-select, and what